What's up, everybody? Welcome to Omnic Lab episode 97. Today's date is April 1st. Actually, today is April 2nd. April Fools, gotcha.
The late April Fools, we really got you here at Omnic Lab.
That was actually the worst, but there's some pretty bad April Fools jokes out there this last week. If you guys like Overwatch League, there were some pretty good ones as well. But my name's Rob. This week we're doing Strat Brewing on Omnic Lab with my man Andres. What's up, Andres?
What's up? What's up? How you doing, man?
Both of us seem pretty sleepy today. Andres is running on low sleep. I'm preparing for in-laws coming in this coming week, which may or may not mean that I won't be with you next week. But man, the delays are real with the episode this week, so apologies to you guys. But all in good time. We'll make sure you guys get the total content that you signed up for on Patreon this month. Let me tell you, cranking it out.
It's been a very long week for the both of us. It's about to be a long one for you too. But we're here. Yeah. We're here. We're still battling, guys. We're still here.
Absolutely. This is a podcast for those of you who are new. This is an Overwatch show. We talk about Overwatch. We talk about strategy, and kind of mix and match as best we can. Usually have lots of very highly skilled players for topics that we feel undergunned on. And today we feel like we're talking about something that I feel like we talked about pretty much at length with a lot of guests, and kind of thought was a good idea to revisit, as Andres and I are actually both in the midst of it, and that is burnout. So we've actually covered this already once before, but we think that it's a good time because a lot of people are seemingly getting fatigued with the game, including ourselves. So we're going to do that. But before we do, we have something fun to talk about, which was the game night. Andres, how did March 30th go?
Oh, man. What a night. I would say it was a roller coaster for me. It was great fun times, and also, man, some huge beatings that we got. This game night has probably been one of the biggest ones. I know that every time we say this, we say it's been one of the biggest ones, but every one that we do kind of tops out the previous one. This time we had the cavalry guys join us. We had about 3 lobbies going on till like 4 in the morning Eastern time or something like that. It was pretty crazy, going full steam. We tried a new challenge this week. We made the podcaster dream team, a team of podcasters and our friend Bounty, who's been practicing with us. But we had the community challenge us, and it was really, really fun. Also, really, really painful. Our community is actually very good. I am proud of you guys. You guys are well trained.
It was entertaining to say the least, but it was pretty funny too, because there was a good joke that I had going on with Mel, because I was not conveniently in the podcasters group, and I was the first in the first group up to bat, so I chose my team wisely. And we laid on a pretty thick layer of beating onto that PB and beating sandwich. That was pretty good.
I must say, what's his name? Your teammate.
Oh, that's a different beating. So y'all know that I've been coaching a High Masters low GM team for the last couple weeks, and it's going on a month and a half now. Well, I invited the guys out to see if they wanted to come help us out and play if they had some time, because some of them are on spring break. And one of the more active guys that just kind of plays all the time, his name's Wahoopi, in the game, and he is very good at playing Mei. And
when you say very good, you mean like incredibly good.
He is a couple rungs down from Jardio, but is a very high Masters level of Mei play that he can do. And I mean, you guys know how much on the hype train I get with Mei, and that for good reason. She's very, very powerful in the right hands, and
He was fun to play
that proved
against.
it.
I will say though, he almost made Bob quit the game. It was very annoying to him. But
Yeah, pretty
Bob,
much May shut down everything that Bob likes to play pretty
yeah,
well.
yeah,
So
Bob was really annoyed. But after the game, he was just really impressed with his gameplay. But during the game, oh my god, our comps were just Bob just cussing this May out. It was really
luckily
fun though.
the comms was only on one side, so you guys don't have to worry about that if you're in family friendly atmosphere. But the game night was really fun. To give you a good scope of what it was, I believe I got reports from CS saying that this was the largest PlayStation outcome we've had to date. They said they had multiple lobbies going on, which I guess was an anomaly for them to have multiple lobbies going on their game night, especially going as long as they went. Usually they said that sometimes they'll break out into that and have one lobby go and play together and another one do kind of like a fun game and then maybe end up breaking out to, competitive mode later. But our PC lobby was also extremely large. I can't 100% bank on this, but from what I could tell, I think we had around 100 plus concurrent over the course of the day. Because of how long it goes and how long 3 and actually breaking into 4 lobbies was, which is the first time we actually had to create new channels for it in a long time. It was a zoo, to say the least. Like, there's lots of people showing up, cycling in and out. There's lots of lobbies, lots of new faces. I think the feed and general chat was literally nobody talking, but it was constantly getting updated with people joining the Discord. It was pretty nuts.
We had a lot of new people join, yeah.
Feel free to come out for
a
those.
great time.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Look forward to it. Every month we do it. It's becoming now kind of a tradition. Everyone in the Discord kind of looks forward to it at the end of every month. If you guys haven't joined it, we usually do it the last Friday of every month. Sometimes that changes, but if it does, we'll announce it with at least a week's time. And yeah, if you join the Discord, you can join the party. The channels usually open up a week prior to game night, so everyone can start chatting. And then on game night, you'll know it's game night because, those channels will be full.
Absolutely. So let's get out of the intro here and the recap, but we have a sponsor to thank. Top Score Solutions, Ben, aka I Need Peelings, offering free business consultations for esports field. If you guys are aspiring coaches, you're looking to start a team, you want to develop an app or service, you want to maybe boost your subscriber base, or you just want to work in esports, you can visit his website, topscoresolutions.com, his Twitter at topscoreesports, and check out those locations for the Discord server, which is where he can get you connected. Ben's got a master's in sports management and business and marketing experience. His services are free, and they tend to stay that way unless things get a little out of hand. But for now, that's how they're staying, and I couldn't be happier. You get people like Wahoopi in your life, and
well,
have them stick them on your friends.
Depending on what side of his friends list you're on. Yeah, I was gonna say.
Just stick them on your friends. There you go. Shout out to Wahoopi. Again, he left us a 5-star iTunes review this week, so what a gem. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. We also have our good friend Switch, aka Omnic Meta's host. They still have the PC meta report from March 22nd. It's still pretty relevant for you guys looking. And they have a new update for hero mains with a lot of Moiras on that list. So you guys will want to check that out. You guys can also look up the Owl recap in the transition phase between Stage 3 and Stage 4 because they have a new High Noon Pick'em announcement. If you guys want to get in that, they're now if you want to start picking teams and scores and all that, you can get in on the fun with Owl Recap's High Noon Pick'em on their Twitter. You can find that link. And in our Discord, I believe.
I wanted to talk about that. If you guys want to play a Pick'ems League against Bob, Mel, and me, we'll be starting Stage 3. We talked to the owner of the website, and we'll be starting fresh. So if you guys want to be part of that league, make sure to join it this week. We have a whole week before the league starts, so be there. We'll be picking. All
right, guys, let's get into the topic of burnout. So Andres and I had a little bit of a trouble this week with planning a guest and the game night as per usual. It typically is really tough to get a morning guest with my time zone. And on top of that, both of us have actually been pretty fatigued with Overwatch. Not even the game itself being bad, but rather other things just vying for attention. And new things kind of waving in your face. You kind of get a little bit of gaming ADD here and there, right? So,
Yeah, I think so.
Andres,
I
you
think
want to
that
speak to your experience?
Yeah, I think that everybody goes through these cycles. Overwatch is a fantastic game. I still love Overwatch. I want to keep playing Overwatch for many years to come. But I think that everybody oscillates through these stages. At least I do, and I know some of my friends do, where I go super hard on Overwatch certain weeks. I just want to play Overwatch, Overwatch, Overwatch. I try to sneak in as much practice as I can, at least 2-3 hours a day, playing the character that I want to improve on. And these weeks are really fun. You usually see some gains during these weeks, but after doing it for a while, there comes a time where I feel like your body just needs something else, right? You just need to refresh your mind. You need to maybe go outside, some human interaction. Maybe you just need to play another game. I think that for us, for example, Overwatch sometimes stops being just a game that we do to relax and starts being more of a game that we do because, we're trying to produce stuff out of it. Like for us podcasters, for example, we're trying to stay current with the game. We have to log in
Right.
whether we feel like playing or not certain days just to, see what's happening, stay in tune with the community, and keep practicing to get better, right? There's like a certain pressure to keep that going, especially since we're doing the show. But sometimes I feel like games also are just games, and it's just nice to have them like that. For example, I've been playing a lot of Sea of Thieves lately. I think it's a nice little game. It's made me laugh quite a bit, and it's just nice to be able to sit down with a game and just enjoy it. There's nothing in the line. You're not stressed out because your rank is going down or because you need to sneak in another little hour of practice. You're just there because it's fun. And sometimes it's nice to going back to where games are just fun a little bit. So that's my kind of like my point of view. I think that last week was kind of like that for me. I had to put Overwatch on the shelf and be like, man, I just need to relax for a little bit, especially since Overwatch League is stopped this week, and there's like this week period where I can kind of concentrate on other things.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, it's been similar where it's been almost like 2.5 weeks, I would say. Because there was like 2 weeks where I was pretty heavily like playing every day. I had my dual queue partners off on his shift, and then I had a couple other guys I met, and so I kind of just rotated and just played and played and played and played. Good result days, bad result days, and overall my rank didn't really matter. Like it still doesn't, but like I'm lower than where I started. However, like every time I sat down over the course of the week, there were times where I'm, peaking above where my career high or my season high was. So, you get that yo-yo frustration that kind of plays a role. You have, man, am I really improving or am I just kind of like jamming the game? Like because there's an interesting wall where it tends to be you kind of have to babysit yourself as far as like how you react to players and play against people. And Overwatch is one of those games where you're not just even fatigued with the game, it's just you're fatigued with players. And
that
like,
can happen
people.
too. Yeah.
So we wanted to like really talk about our experience here because while it is an anecdote in our personal experience and maybe not what a lot of you are experiencing, because I have been getting reports of people in the Discord just saying, man, I'm getting like some of the best games I've had. And
Yeah. Everyone's
seasons are great
experiencing the game differently, of course.
Right. So these are just kind of what the factors are like right now. And the other thing too is, I mean, Andres and I have lives outside of the game, outside of the show, and those are pretty big. Like we're prepping for, in-laws, or Andres and I are like looking and waiting for BlizzCon preparation. You got all these little things that kind of just pop up, and then Andres is playing Sea of Thieves, and I think the game's a fad, and I don't want to spend $60 on it. And
hey, I think that game is a little gem. Excuse me.
Well, you can go hunt for your little gem in that game, and I'll sit here pretty happy. So I've actually been getting into watching Critical Role, which is Scott Mercer's the guy who does the voice of McCree, Jesse
Yeah.
McCree, has a dungeon master in Dungeons and Dragons, and has a bunch of other people that do voice acting in the Blizzard universe and are extremely talented at role playing and playing the game. And yeah, so my Duo Q partner is about to move and said that he started a D&D campaign, and I may have caught the bug, and my wife's super interested, and we marathoned over 12 hours of content, like just watching
Wow.
stuff.
Nice.
So we're really into it right now, and I don't think it's actually going to go away. So we're trying to like transition into doing finding a good balance of playing other things and enjoying Overwatch. And it's really tough when you feel obligated to like pursue something, and we're trying to relate to our player base and our listeners as well. So here's some of the things that we want to talk about. Is the first two things I think that you start understanding about burnout is just like your overall mood is kind of affected by the hobby, right? And that's like your kind of your first indicator is when you're not quite done playing the game, but you kind of feel like the overall day's journey is kind of affected by how you played Overwatch the previous day.
I
You know what I
also
mean?
I also think like what you're trying to say is like the first symptom that I get is maybe the excitement, that motivation. Like when
Yeah.
I'm really motivated to play Overwatch, I'm thinking about it constantly. Even if I'm not playing the game, when I'm in the car or while I'm working on something else, I'll be thinking about, maybe if I try this with Tracer, or oh, you know what? In that situation yesterday with McCree, I could have rolled here and shoot him here instead. And I'm thinking about Overwatch and trying to improve even when I'm not playing it. But I think that once you reach that burnout phase, that little excitement and those thoughts start dissipating. I don't start getting in them anymore,
Mm-hmm.
or like the excitement to log into my computer and like jump into Overwatch right away is not there. Like I'll maybe open the Battle.net Blizzard launcher and I'll look at the Overwatch icon and the play button. Then maybe I scroll down to like Hearthstone and I'm like,
That
do
looks
I
fun.
want that? Do I want to do Hearthstone? Or like I'll scroll to Sea of Thieves and be like, man, that really looks fun right now. That's when I know I'm reaching
Right.
the burnout phase, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing too is we wanted to talk about is there's just symptoms. Like that's like kind of the first key indicator, right? But like there's other things. Like we said before, you can get fatigued with just players. You get like that. You get like two or three of those players in like two or three games in a row, and then over the course of the week, you get like one or two of those games of your session, and sometimes they kind of just wear on you. And a lot of it has to do with personal attitude, which we talked about prior in a couple episodes, just like tilt. But some of us are really not as good as others with dealing with tilt, even when we're working on it. And so like gameplay and burnout can kind of really affect people differently.
Oh yeah.
And I think that overlaps quite a bit. But we also wanted to talk about not just like how to identify it as we did with other, like with the tilt. We did a whole episode on tilt and like how to identify that. And I think that burnout is one of those things where I think the biggest thing with burnout right now is for players to recognize that burnout is normal and that it happens to the best of us, and it happens to those of you who are casual. It happens to casuals getting burned out of games. Playing the game 10 hours a week, or which basically translates to about an hour, 2 hours a day for 5 days out of the 7 in a week, is something that is not normative for a lot of you. And there are not very many players out there who have goals or maintain a diamond rank and above that can play the game less than about that. They typically will play about 10 hours a week as kind of your base minimum to fight decay and not like sink too far on their mechanical abilities and lose the the overall rustiness that you kind of feel, right, Andres?
Oh yeah, rustiness really comes into play there. But like you said, I think burnout is a natural thing. It's not something like, oh man, I'm burned out, I'm out of the game, I'm gonna sell my computer now, moving on. No, it's something that comes and goes. it happens even to professional players, like you said. I think a good example is Houston Outlaws on stage 2 of the Overwatch League.
Mm-hmm.
They went so hard on stage 1, and they were one of the best teams in during that stage. They ended up at number 2 in the league after stage 1. But in stage 2, you saw them kind of hit a brick wall and go in a huge losing streak, the biggest losing streak so far in the tournament, if you don't count Shanghai Dragons, which they're in a permanent losing streak at this point. But
Right.
um,
The second worst.
yeah, but you saw that, and everyone's like, "What is happening? You guys were such a solid team come stage 1. This is not the same Houston Outlaws." And they
Right.
released a couple public statements saying, we've been going super hard. I think a lot of us are going through a burnout period where we've been playing this game nonstop, thinking about this game nonstop, even while we're not playing. Even during our time off, we're discussing this and probably going on our streams and streaming Overwatch to our fans.
Mm-hmm.
So it was nonstop for them. And it comes a point where your brain kind of melts a little bit and you just can't take it anymore. And your mechanics even deter, or not deter, but
They default to like bad habits or
yeah,
something.
you go into bad habits. Maybe you're not thinking clearly or creatively, so you're becoming really predictable. Maybe your communications are becoming a little stagnant, or maybe a little short. You're not communicating as efficiently or eloquently as before because your brain is kind of in a rut. It's stuck in that, and it's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more you try to force it, the worse that it gets, the more frustrating that it gets. And sometimes the best thing you can do is really just turn around and take a break. Go do something else. Pick another activity, even another game like we've been mentioning. We kind of gave you a few examples of what we do when we feel burnout. But it's the best thing you can do because forcing it only makes it worse. And then coming back after like a week of doing something else can be so refreshing and can give you a new perspective on the game. And waiting to get that motivation back while you're doing any other activity, sometimes it comes back and you're like, oh man, I really want to play some Overwatch right now. And that's when it becomes a lot more rewarding again.
Now, we're not trying to advocate that, like, if Overwatch has kind of gotten you so burned out to the point that you're like, I really just don't want to play it anymore. Because I feel like that category of player is not somebody that is listening to this podcast anymore. Those are people that are, like, really so unmotivated about Overwatch, they've just kind of turned off all possible outlets back in. They're going to their YouTube page. They're hitting unsubscribe. They're hitting unsubscribe on their, their podcasting feed. They're going back to general Blizzard stuff. They're playing stuff casually. They're not looking to like go super deep into this. And so chances are, if you're listening to an episode on burnout, you're kind of like, man, how do I get that spark back? Or how do I get that catalyst to kind of get me back in? Or or rather on the other side of the coin is like, what happened to the hook or what happened to the bug that I did have? Like, why am I here? You know what I mean? That's kind of where a lot of you guys might be finding yourselves, and chances are, again, that none of you are professionals, and neither are we. So we're kind of finding ourselves in the same boat.
Hey,
but
I would like to think that there's a professional Overwatch player listening to this podcast out there right now. Just let me live my dream.
That would be pretty sweet. That'd be pretty sweet. But for the vast majority of us, playing other things is like Overwatch isn't your job. Overwatch isn't who you are as a person. So we don't have to get into an existential crisis just because we don't want to play Overwatch for a couple of days or a month or so. Like it's pretty reasonable that you can take a month off or a couple months off and come back. There are some people that just like frankly play too much in the first place and maybe got addicted. And so the addiction is what drove you to the burnout, whether it would be willful or unwillful. So playing other stuff is really good. We talked about that kind of extensively, but I think when you're coming to a game like Overwatch where commitment is key and improvement, like with anything, you got to really come at it from the scope of goals and expectations. Like what are you actually looking for from Overwatch? What are your expectations when you sit down and play a game?
Right.
Are you playing? Are you looking to gain rank? Because gaining rank is pretty inextricably bound with improvement and playing your best and consistent play and all these things. And so what happens is your expectations and your goals may be the same, but your goals and expectations aren't really met with reality, and or a reasonable goal and a reasonable expectation. They may be too lofty for you to achieve. And the timetable may also be really unexpected in what you're actually trying to do. Kind of like you're like, okay, I feel like I'm going to go run today. I'm going to go run 4 miles, and you haven't run in like 6 months. It's like, well, it's probably not going to go very well for a lot of you. You know what I mean? So you kind of have to have reasonable expectations. You sit down and play a couple games, whether or not you've sat down for the last 6 months and played a shooting game. Overwatch is pretty unique in how it approaches a lot of things. Like Andres and I talked a lot about kind of the growing pains we had when we came back from our big Destiny 2 bout, where we were playing that a lot to avoid burnout because the aim assist was really punishing.
Oh yeah,
coming back to Overwatch and the floatiness overall. But the other thing too, I think you got to look through when you're looking at burnout is progression. I know a lot of people get burned out based off of their progression stagnating, because like we talked about on the Moira show with Fu, you stagnate with rank because that's the goal, that's the expectation, is I'm improving, and so these numbers should be changing. When in reality, the numbers change over time, and when you get more volume into having improved games and you're playing consistently better. And it's hard. It's a hard pill to swallow, especially for somebody like me who's been, stuck in the rank that I feel like I belong in, but I want to be better. And I feel like the system's kind of like lulling me down just a little bit, like 1 or 2 notches, 200 SR to be precise, 200 to 300 SR, a little bit below where I think I should be, because
you've made the
calculations.
calculations. You did all the equations. That's 200.
It's a pretty
SR.
exact number, Blizzard. Thank you. Just bump that up for me. But no, like I know that it's a number that I've been up and down on, and Andres, you felt this in Diamond and in your rank too. Like you float up and down, plus or minus 300 SR is fairly normal. But like, is that really how you're gaining enjoyment from the game? Is like what rank you are right now? It's like, that's not really a good place to be in.
No, actually, I have a funny story, because I've kind of given up on rank for this season, at least like on actually gaining rank, because it wasn't being fun for me anymore. Just going in solo into the ladder and trying just to gain rank, that it became really apparent really fast that just wasn't like the funnest goal to me, because like you said, you have to be realistic about your expectations, and I'm not trying to become a Overwatch pro player over here. I love Overwatch, but I don't think that my life would allow for that sort of thing. I have a lot of other stuff going on that I also want to drive forward in my life to dedicate that kind of time. So the next best thing to me is, how can I enjoy the game closest to that, but not being that, right? And I've realized that to me, that is playing with a team of friends that I trust, that are consistent, that I can play with them regularly on the weeknights that are open for me. And that to me is the funnest way to enjoy Overwatch. So that's kind of what I've been doing. That's where the podcaster team idea came up for game night, since I've been practicing again with Deathblow, with Bob, with Mel, with a couple other people, and that's been the funnest to me. And honestly, we have not been winning. We have been losing a lot. I've been losing a lot of rank, and I haven't cared at all, because the goal has stopped being how much rank I can gain on my account, and has become, how can we improve as a team and play together. And I've shifted gear more towards, okay, let's help the team get a solid strategy together. Our debut was on game night, so it was a very bad debut. We're not prepared at all. But after the
you guys are playing a lot of higher level skill players as well.
Yeah, we're playing against masters and grandmaster players. The community was out there to get us for sure, but that was really fun.
Oh yeah.
And after the games, a lot of the podcasters were like, "Oh no, this can't happen again, guys," and they were very motivated to go back and keep practicing as a team, because they're like, next game night, we can't look this bad. So I think that's gonna be like my goal for this season at least.
I definitely am on the same train. I think I'm a couple days, maybe even a week or two off from where you're at now, because like I'm trying to figure out what it is the goal that I want to go for. And I think I've kind of started figuring out like coaching's definitely where I found a lot of what I like to do, but I'm also trying to find that balance of like playing Overwatch a little less, but also having like realistic expectations when I want to play. Because I'm a couple steps behind you both in skill and like overall goals because I haven't been able to ever achieve diamond, and I want to get there. You know, that's a long-term goal that I feel is fair. It's a lower percentage point of the totality of the community, but I feel like diamond is something that's off in the horizon, and I have no problem playing with people at that pace, and I have no problem playing a couple of the heroes that I'm proficient in, and feel like I have to double down and really work on a couple of those heroes. But this last season, like I said, I've been working on flexing, and it's not been kind to me. But I've gotten comments from higher skill players that I play in the game nights, and they're like, "Dude, this is not bad. Like, keep playing, and your Winston's not bad, and just keep it going, and try this and try that." And I mean,
Yeah.
I'm getting little tips here and there, and it's really really helpful and comforting. And even when the rank's not there, you know, showing up with a couple of your buddies, even if they're not at your skill rank and they're higher or lower, you kind of get a good sense for where you're at. And so the final point here is fun. And this is kind of the one that we've been hitting at over and over and over again. But if Overwatch isn't fun, burnout's going to happen often,
Very quick.
and it's going to happen fast. And it may happen so often and so fast that it becomes something that's consistent, and you find yourself out in the salt mines of Reddit and just finding some other people that are just angry that you find comfort in instead of like finding fun in the game. You know what I mean? So definitely look at the game as something that you can enjoy and you can progress in, and it's kind of a personal push to better yourself and understand the game better. That's something that I felt like I really grasped a lot going just from gold to platinum, and that one jump of gameplay and just staying there for a long time and learning different roles has been a long process, but I can definitely feel it paying off. I definitely enjoy the strategic switches and playing different heroes and being able to play different heroes at the same level. I feel like the last 2 or 3 seasons have been stagnant because, you know, I've been here because I'm learning how to play all of these characters at this rank, not just one, or not just 2, or not just 3, or not just supports. I'm playing like tanks and DPS and stuff at the same level. So there you go. That's burnout. Let's thank a couple people that have helped us produce this show. And over the last month, we just got our charged patrons and got a couple people that stuck around and still like us. We got Ben K, we got Britmus, Christoplaya, Good Golden Soldier A, Great Root Bear of the 7 Deadly Venoms crew in New York, constantly featured by New York Excel. We got Jeff B, Jeremy Banks, Lysum, Never Clutch, Not Meta, Jan Jinkle, Ricky Tiki, Shazir, Top Score Solutions, of course, as mentioned at the top of the show, Tragic Zach, and we have 2 new Diamond patrons. We have Ray and Roger B. And also we have 3 new patrons that are not Diamond. We have Mick Goose, William J, and Drunken Monk. Thank you guys so much for your support. It is deeply appreciated as we're looking forward to literally any day we could get a BlizzCon announcement of the dates and ticket announcement date drop whenever that is. But we've got a lot of cool stuff coming up. We also have the new Uprising / rumored to be archived event coming up on the 10th in 7 days from the record, or 6, sorry, not 7 days. This would be about 8 days from the recording on the US time. But if you guys are looking for some cool stuff, we want to thank those of you who are helping us out on Patreon. You can do that at patreon.com/Omnic Lab to support the show and help Andres and I keep getting out more content to you guys and talk about topics that maybe you're interested in. You guys have a little bit more weight than the general populace because you're helping us out. So you can submit us some questions and have some exclusive access to a few channels in Discord. And you can go check out all those perks there. We also have a couple of people on iTunes. If you guys don't have the money to support us, you can leave us an iTunes review for free. That helps us a lot in Google and iTunes search results. So, Andres, would you like to read the first one from Upset Moviegoer?
Upset Moviegoer. He says, awesome podcast. Rob and Andres have a really good chemistry with each other. Lots of high-ranked guests for deep dives in particular heroes, and both of them have insightful commentary on the game. Definitely give this show a shot. Oh, thank you so much, Upset Moviegoer. We do try to get as many high-level guests in here. Rob and I love talking about the game, but sometimes we're not the deepest experts, so we do love having the help from all of our guests. The more that we can have, the happier we are.
Absolutely. I got to read it from my boy Wahoopi, who I mentioned at the
Oh
top of
my
the show.
God.
Great
Is this
podcast for
the
learning
May?
Overwatch. Yes, is the May player. I'm not quite sure if he's trolling us, but I'm going to read it nonetheless. I'm going to expect good intentions. So he says, a lot of fun with good production value, professional analysis of the ins and outs of learning to play Overwatch at every skill level, 10 out of 10. I mean, he would know because he plays at that skill level. So got to give it to him.
It was really fun playing with him, though. I do love the challenge, and he made me play heroes that I'm usually not comfortable with because he was forcing my hand.
Forcing your hand. Also, I got to take this next one because this is one of my favorite reviews that we've ever had as far as the humor category. This comes from Big Chief Clay, and his review's titled Pizza. This podcast is a lot like pizza. When it's good, it's really good. But when it's bad, it's still pretty good.
Yummy Omnic Lab.
My wife read this, or after I read this to my wife, she's like, they should have just said it's still pizza. That would have been pretty good. But you want to read the last one from our new Diamond patron that I also left us an iTunes review?
Sure.
From Ray?
This one comes from Ray, says informative and entertaining. Omnic Lab is the only podcast I listen to, and I've been a regular listener for over a year. It's been enjoyable to listen to as they've progressed and continue to pump out informative and entertaining podcasts on the game of Overwatch every week. It's well overdue for me to leave a review for them, but I intend to be a regular listen as long as they continue. Oh, awesome. You're gonna be in here for a long time, man, because we don't have any intentions of slowing down.
Absolutely. We got a lot more show for you guys left over. We have quite a bit of news that we had to skim over the previous weeks, and so we're gonna take it by the horns and talk about the patch 1.22 on the player experience tools, and then we'll talk about what hit the PTR. So basically, there is a new function to help players, which is renaming the categories within reporting players. And within this, there is something that they're renaming from griefing to gameplay sabotage. He says, quote, this is from Scott Mercer. Griefing is a very broad term and used in many different ways amongst the community. Its intent of the category is to be used when a player disrupts the game or harasses other players through the use of normal gameplay mechanics. A clear example is a Symmetra teleporter exists to be placed at the side of cliffs so that a teammate intentionally and immediately drops to their death. Another example is intentionally allowing themselves to be eliminated by the enemy team and referred to the community as feeding or inting. So this is a really good, more descriptive term of griefing for players that don't understand the lingo by defining it as gameplay sabotage and also giving us a few key indicators. But he also tells us what it is not. And that is basically somebody making a mistake or having a poor game. Everyone does that from time to time as best, even the best professionals in the world. Players can also have a rough match with a lot of mistakes simply because the other team is making better players and performing well. For a player reported for gameplay sabotage, they must be intentionally trying to disrupt and harass teammates or actively trying to lose. Note that playing a non-meta hero does not mean someone is taking part in gameplay sabotage. As mentioned many times, players who are not trying, or players who are trying hard to help their team win should be reported regardless of the hero they choose. So that's just a little bit more clarity, and they're also removing the poor teamwork category because I believe people were using the griefing and poor teamwork kind of for the same thing, and they're kind of fusing them with a new banner, if you know what I mean. So, Andres, what do you think about this?
I think it's good. It's a step in the right direction. They're making it more streamlined. As they've said before, they're continuing to iterate on the reporting system. And I mean, every step in that direction is good. I think that the new feature that they're adding, the avoid the player, have we mentioned that?
No, that's the next thing. You can take that.
All right, yeah, that's the next feature they're adding. Avoid a player. You can mark it if you don't want to particularly play with a guy that maybe you're not vibing with. Maybe your personalities are clashing. Maybe the guy just is not very kind to you and you rather avoid this person. Or maybe you played two similar heroes and you just cannot be in the same game together because you gotta play that Doomfist. You can use this feature now and avoid that player. Does it avoid the player for forever, or is it just for the next couple of matches? Do you know?
So on the news, it says avoid teaming is an option that gives players another way of improving their game experience online, and you can be effective for the next match. They will no longer place you on a team with the avoided player for 1 week. Sometimes if you don't want to play them because you disagree with them or for any reason, you can just do that. But this does not take the place of reporting them for things like abusive chat, inactivity, gameplay sabotage, etc. So you still need to report them if that's the issue that you're having. However, they did say that there was a limit to 2 in the video, in the developer update. So per week, you can only maximum basically like avoid 2 players.
Oh,
and
gotcha.
I guess this is so that the system doesn't get both overridden with people that are avoiding people at higher ranks, or just like, I don't want to avoid like anybody, and I'm kind of like making the match queue times really, really long because I don't want to play with everybody that's online right now and like, less than 1% of the community. And on top of that, there is the other form of the function, which is this is a new function, and they're trying to look to see if they need to get more slots and about how much, and see what the community has and see how it works with what they do have rolling out.
So at this point, you do have to be pretty selective with who you decide not to play with.
Pretty much.
It's not like a willy-nilly, this guy said something I didn't like, I'm just going to avoid this player. It has to be like, okay, I really dislike this person, I cannot play with them kind of thing.
Yeah, but you can do that if that's like literally any reason you want. It's a soft block. So you can block them as long as you'd like, and for that week, and then you can even reblock them if you get them again. For me, this is because I play at off hours pretty much exclusively. So if I'm playing at off hours and I see somebody that I don't want to play with again, somebody just insta-locks, Doomfist and doesn't feed, but just doesn't play very poorly, or just plays very poorly, and not even play poorly on the hero, but plays like really poorly with the team, doesn't function, doesn't speak, doesn't help, doesn't switch like when we need something else because we have a couple new people on the team in the next game. So usually you just avoid them, and for that rest of the session, I don't have to play with them even because I know they're on at the same time. I can just make sure they're matched up with me on the other end of the stick. So I love this idea. This is really, really helpful for pretty much all levels of play, and I would like to see this expanded. I do think that 2 is a little too little.
A little restricting?
Especially, yeah. And I do think that even though this is a little too little, this is going to help with getting matched with players who are duo, trio, quadra, full team queues. You can actually avoid a full team queue by avoiding 1 player on that whole team of 6. So,
that's a good point.
Or duo queue. You can avoid a duo queue by blocking 1 of them.
Maybe that might be the reason why they're not allowing more spots, because the more that you allow this, probably the harder it becomes on the matchmaker. Eventually, the matchmaker's like, wait, everyone's avoiding everyone. There can be no matches.
Yeah, that's why they said that you could only limit it to 2. So, for what it's worth. And then I do like that it expires itself after a week. So that's just something to keep in mind, that you'll have to redo that. But chances are in a week, unless you're at like a higher skill level where the player diversity of how many people are in that rank, or the overall not player diversity, player density within your rank is a lot thinner, then you may have to redo that a lot more. But like unless you're playing at off hours like myself, then you typically won't see the same players very often.
Cool.
All right, next up here, PTR. PTR has 3 main updates. There's a lot of other little things here, but I'm not going to cover everything. You can go check this out. The first one that we'll talk about is that, let's see, this is a bug fix for Sombra, and that's not what I'm looking for. Here we go. Hero updates for Diva micro missiles. The explosive damage is reduced from 6 to 4. And as you know, she doesn't fire one missile. So she fires a lot of these. And each one being lowered is a lot. And especially with how armor is dealt, what happens with armor is anytime you deal damage with any one thing, it goes down by half to a max of 5. And this is the explosive damage from the missiles going from 6 to 4. So it's almost half because of the damage split. It's 1/3 being basically removed. And on top of that, the collective data on non-armored targets, which is just regular damage, is about a 22% lower nerf, according to the developer comments here. Andres, what do you think about this?
I think it's good. Diva's an all-star hero, and her burst damage is a big part of it. I don't know if this is like a huge nerf. I think it's just like a slight little touch-up. I personally love Diva. I like playing her. She fits my playstyle particularly. And if I have to go on a tank, I really like going her or Winston.
It doesn't change her playstyle like at all.
It doesn't change the playstyle at all, which I'm happy about. But it does tone down a little bit of her burst. I think she'll still be able to kill a lot of people, though. Any squishy, she's still a big threat.
Right. Yeah, the power of this is definitely when you get close and you're able to burn it, or you're like able to burn it while you're moving forward, and then also being able to fire at the same time and move at the same time. You know what I mean? Like you can fly, you can shoot your primary fire, you can shoot your missiles all at the same time and kind of collapse on something and delete them. So it's kind of like lowering the overall burst, lowering the overall total damage you can deal to armored targets as well. I think all of this is kind of like really, really good because it's like if you can tone this hero down to maybe mix things up, will people still play Diva a lot? Yes, absolutely. This is not like hitting her with the nerf bats so she's never played again. Like this is definitely just like let's bring her down a rung on the power scale here. But next up we have Mei. This is a lot more terrifying than some of you may be thinking, but the endothermic blaster now pierces through enemies. What does this mean? So Mei will now be able to combat multiple targets if they're clumping up, and allows you to keep a freeze on a specific target even if they get body blocked. So the idea here is, let's say you're fighting a Genji and you switch to Mei because Genji's giving your team issues and he's too fast. So you try to slow him down, and Genji goes around a corner and the Winston pops up and tries to body block you. Well, the freeze can still go through the Winston and forces Winston to now drop the barrier so that your endothermic blaster has to be blocked by a barrier and not just by his body. So if you want to do that, you can punish people that are body blocking by freezing both of them, maybe. Or maybe you can finish off that last little bit before they can get frozen, even when they're getting body blocked by an ally.
This is a big change for me, and it's particularly useful against compositions like death volley compositions, like a triple tank, for example. When they're all clumping up together, it's really hard to get a freeze in a particular person just because your freeze keeps getting interrupted when new targets just go in front of it. Or like you said, even freezing a Genji, for example, he can just kind of retreat into his team, into his tank line, and once he's behind them, they don't even need a shield. They're just blocking it with their body, and that might be enough to prevent it. So I think that Mei, for being such a close-range hero, really struggled with this when there was more than one target in front of her. It's a great change, and it's a scary change for anyone clumping up near Mei, especially since the freeze time on it is being reduced as well, or has it already been reduced?
What was been reduced? Sorry, I missed that last part.
The time it takes to freeze.
The time it takes to freeze is not been adjusted. It's the time they're slowed that has been adjusted.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So they retain their slow with the breaking of LOS and the blaster touching them.
I'm pretty sure guys like Woohoopy are gonna love this change. Jardy.
Oh yeah, we already been talking about it internally. We're really excited to play some more Mei with the team.
Awesome.
So she's gotten 2 soft buffs, which is pretty nice. We're going to skip over Reaper and talk about Moira real quick because Reaper's the biggest one. But Moira has a Biotic Grasp, Coalescence, and Fade change. So let's rapid fire these. Biotic Grasp transparency has been increased, which means it's a little bit easier to see and when you are closer to a target. The coalescence now becomes also more transparent the closer that its visual effects are to a player's camera. And then her fade's transparency will increase the closer you are to a target. So what does this mean? Basically, Moira's stuff's too dang bright. You blind people, including yourself, okay? So what happens is there's too much stuff going on. This is likely because of all of the complaints, not just with the colorblind mode, which still needs to be fixed and improved, as Great Root Bear and Color Bastion or Colorblind has been informing me. It's awful for colorblind mode, guys. Please boycott or whatever you need to do to get that colorblind stuff fixed. The forums. But basically, Coalescence is not just like an ability you can use to heal and damage and blind. Now the blind's going to be significantly lower. Like, you know, the Coalescence is hitting you. You can kind of see through it a little bit more. Same thing with the Biotic Grasp. If you're healing a bunch of people with your spray or you're dealing a bunch of damage with your right click, those are both Biotic Grasp, so those will be lowered. And then there was also a little bit of a thing with Fade. Apparently, the big puff of smoke would also be kind of blinding if you kind of just popped out in front of somebody. Or even when you used it initially, you have that first gust of smoke too. Anders, anything else on this before you go into Reaper?
No, just great changes. These are like quality of life changes. I'm glad I'm going to be able to shoot while there's a coalescence on me or behind me. Great change. Yeah, pro players have been wanting this for a long time.
Okay, I'm going to just run through what Reaper is getting changed and Anders can take over. So there's two things. Death Blossom reloads your shotguns after use. Apparently, dropping your guns and picking up new ones, you don't have to do it twice anymore after Death Blossom. Because that was the funniest thing to me for the longest time. He's just like, die, die, die. He shoots all these things, throws them down, grabs new rifles, and you're like, oh, crap, I have to reload those. And then he drops the new ones that he just picked out of his ethereal cape and picks up two more. So you have to reload twice.
This was a lore change just to fix that.
It's also a function, but we'll get into that in a second. And then Wraith Form, you actually go from 25% bonus speed to 50% bonus speed. And bonus, you can cancel the ability by hitting the Shi again. So you can hit shift again, or you can hit your primary fire key again.
Yeah, this
to break Wraith.
This is a huge change for Reapers and Reaper mains out there. And it might actually be the change that makes us see Reaper a little more, because you've just changed Wraith Form to being one of the most predictable abilities in the entire game to being kind of a skill
an outplay
ability.
tool.
Yeah, an outplay tool. Now any player can choose to Wraith whenever they see danger coming, a flashbang or a dive on them. They can avoid a lot of damage if they're very aware and have good timing. And then they can choose to re-engage with full shotguns. So now Reaper basically can have 16 shots on demand whenever you feel is the most appropriate time, plus a 50% speed boost to fight in close quarters. This is huge. It makes Wraith Form
two
so
ways
much more
to
usable.
reload besides hitting the R key. Use your ultimate, and you can use a quick double tap of the shift key.
I think that Reaper is definitely going to be played a lot more, especially in close quarter maps like King's Row, like Temple of Anubis. Wraith Form being this good is such good news for Reaper in a meta that is so mobile, where you have divas, Winstons, you have Tracers, Genji's flying all over the place. He seems so slow and so, I don't know, like he can't keep up with all these other heroes being able to have so many movement abilities.
Right.
This is great news for him, more than the Death Blossom. I mean, Death Blossom is also great, just in case anybody survives the onslaught. You're not just caught with your pants down. You can, keep fighting. But I don't know. I love it. Reaper's a really cool hero. It's a hero that doesn't see that much play except for very niche maps. You don't see a lot in the ladder, but it's a very powerful hero against certain guys like Winston, Roadhog, even Diva or Zarya are great targets for him.
Yeah,
I'm
where
excited.
Reaper is good, he is going to be very good now. Reloading is kind of the nice little quality of life / lore element / slightly helpful, so that you're not, like Andres said, getting caught with your pants down. But the Wraith form is amazing because this is just the tool to reload. This is the simple thing where, you know, McCree's have their roll that's like really fast. They can reload, they can reposition. This one is like that, but you're immune to stuns, and you can like bait out a flashbang and use this right before it hits you. You can wait for, you know, graviton. You can use it that way. There's all kinds of nutty things. Now, can you still get sucked into the graviton? Absolutely, but you can cancel it, which is really big because, as a lot of Mei players would tell you, they can use Ice Block not just for the full heal, but they can use and break it whenever they want to outplay certain abilities. And you're going to start seeing Reapers do this.
You can also use it as a catch-up mechanic now. You can actually use this offensively, where before it was such a death sentence to use your Wraith form to go into the enemy team just because it wasn't really that fast. You didn't get you that much speed, and you were so predictable. Good players can just wait for the timing of it to run out and immediately engage you right after. But now that it gives you 50% move speed, you can actually chase down people with it and then choose to cancel it whenever you think is the most appropriate and not when the enemy will know when it is, right?
Yeah. I'm not sure if I'm going to put this in the show notes, but there's a gazillion bugs plaguing Doomfist thread that was addressed for things that are not bugs, for clarifications, things that are currently live, things that are currently targeted to be fixed. And this is a lot of bugs. Like, let's say, yeah, this is over 30 bugs. Looks like they addressed 32 different bugs that were supposedly posted in this thread. So you definitely want to go check that out.
Doomfist has definitely been like the bane of their bug existence. this hero.
Well, it's because there's no clarity on a lot of these. It looks like most of these are like isolated cases they can't figure out, things that are fixed, things that are on live, things that are not getting fixed but will be, and then there's a lot of those that are also like, this is not a bug. This is you thinking that Doomfist should do something that he shouldn't be able to do. Additionally to this, I'm scrolling up here, so hang on. Hanzo updates. So basically, somebody on the threads was really, really nice about requesting, can we please get a sneak peek at the new Hanzo? And Jeff Kaplan was obliged to respond 2 days ago. We've been doing a lot of playtesting on the new rapid shot ability, the one that's what the working name is right now, and we're happy with it. There are also sonic arrow changes that increase the speed of his arrows, and it's all feeling pretty good.
Oh, cool.
It will go to our VFX animation team and a concept art, and he actually links concept art of what it's going to look like and how the bow actually changes shape to look more like blue and sparky. So it looks really cool. So when they get other applications and stuff, then they will go past to the VFX team. Sorry, visual effects. Also, the Uprising Mercy for the next event that will be coming, likely to be named Archives, will be a different Mercy. Likely the achievement might be retuned, but she is now going to be using the new Resurrect and Valkyrie for the event. Anything yet on Torben Sim? Question mark to Jeff Kaplan. He says, yes. We're doing a lot of experimentation with Symmetra right now, but nothing is clicking. So they're experimenting with a lot of different roles, but we're not really confident in what direction they really want to share, and they don't want to share any more details. Additionally, Torb is not immediately on their horizon, and they're more focused on adjusting Symmetra right now. ... And someone else.
Ooh.
Which likely is just a hint that they're working on Hanzo.
Yeah, that's by Hanzo.
Just a little fun tease. Also on the can we get a sneak peek at Hanzo thread, they asked if the concept art makes the ability too obvious for opponents, and they said it was intentional to have that blue effect so that you know when Hanzo is in the rapid fire mode so that you can avoid it.
That's good. Yeah, that's good for, the enemy team to know when he changes. Kind of like when Orisa goes into her strong form. How do you call it?
Who is this?
Orisa?
Orisa?
Yeah, what he
Fortify?
Fortify. There you go. You want that visual feedback, right?
Yeah. The golden quadruped.
Yeah.
They also said that they were requesting some dash updates in this thread and on the Hanzo dash, and they said yes, the dash is still implemented and they are testing it. I'm looking through here, and that looks like it's about it. There's one thing here left from Reddit from Bill Warneck. I think I said his name right. But they asked Blizzard, please reduce the visual clutter. And they said, we've been looking at visual clutter recently, and we've cleaned up some effects with Moiro, as per what we discussed earlier. I don't know all the changes we're planning, but I think Zenyatta's Ultimate's one were recently adjusted with time frame around 1.24. Cheers.
Cool.
So it looks like this is something they're looking to address, likely because of the visual effects, not just in the player experience, but also in the spectator and Overwatch League experience with how things show up in the monochromatic setup for away teams playing in white, is my guess.
I wish they could do it with Reinhardt. I think it would be so awesome if you got close to Reinhardt, he became just a little bit more transparent. So as McCree or Soldier, you could shoot through him a little more easy.
Yeah. If they're not going to have, friendly fire and you can shoot through Reinhardt's butt, you should be able to see through Reinhardt's butt, darn it. But I think that's going to do it for the show, guys. Thank you so much for your support and listening. We really, really appreciate that. Another way you can support the show is by heading over to live stream. For those of you who are watching right now, thank you for jumping in the chat and staying active. You can help us out by giving us a Twitch sub by using monetary or your Twitch Prime. If you have Amazon Prime, you can sign up for Twitch Prime and give us a sub there. And we have a new role in our Discord for people there, as well as our exclusive emote being Twitch affiliates. You can follow us on Twitter. You can check out our website at omniclab.com. Check out our links there in the archives. If you're looking for new stuff and interesting topics, you can check the search bar there. And you can always head over to our Discord at discord.me/omniclab or click the link on the website to find it. Our community is happening. Game nights are going once a month, and you guys can do all kinds of fun stuff in there. Please check it out. And Andres, where can people find you?
If you want to find me, you can find me on Twitter at iPlayGames. You spell that IPLAI Games. And you can also find me talking Overwatch League over at the Owl Recap with Bob and Mel. We're starting back again next Monday, rating up for Stage 4.
You can also catch Bob and Mel on the Owl Recap section of the Omnic Lab Discord.
That's
in
right.
The Owl Recap section. There's a lot of really cool Overwatch League news that I've been posting there. And you can see a lot of the discussion going on there, as well as the High Noon Pick'ems reminder. That's going to do it for the show. You can also find me on the tag Not Rob on Twitter and on Velen's Chosen Podcast. We are doing live shows. Velen's Chosen Podcast on Twitch. We are doing live streams. I've done a lot of similar feel to the Omnic Lab Podcast live stream that you're seeing on Twitch. It looks pretty similar to that, but quite a bit more purple, a little bit more gold. Because that's our colors over there. And we're doing a card review season for the Witchwood. You guys can check that out if you like Hearthstone. It's been a blast to review cards and talk about stuff. And again, if I don't see you guys next week, I'll see you in 2 weeks because my in-laws are coming in. But I hope to join you if we can make it. And remember not to be a lab rat, but be a scientist. And good luck avoiding that burnout. It's not easy. Good luck, guys. Bye.
Thanks to everyone in the chat. Shock was super active today. Thanks for coming, dude. It's good to have you, as always. Bob, yes, I know that today is Monday, but when you say today in podcasts, it doesn't translate very well to your listeners. They're like, what is today? Yeah, a few people come in.
I have nothing more to teach you. The rest you must learn for yourself.
Bye.